On October 16, 2014, the peaceful rhythm of life in Lakewood, Washington, shattered in the most unimaginable way. In the middle of a quiet afternoon, a single loud crack, sharp, echoing, pierced the calm. Moments later, everything fell silent again, as if the sound had been swallowed by the air. But the silence didn't last long. A sudden, frantic knock at the door jolted the neighbors from their mundane routines. A voice, trembling with panic, broke through the quiet. "Help! Please! Help! It's Danielle. She's dead." Skyler Nemitz, Danielle's husband, was standing at their door, his face pale and stricken with terror. His eyes, wide with fear, locked onto the neighbors as he repeated his desperate plea. The neighbors, still reeling from the confusion of the sounds that preceded this, quickly dialed 911. Inside the Nemitz home, something had gone terribly wrong. Welcome. This is Crime Uncovered, where every case has a story, and the truth is often stranger and darker than fiction. If you yet to subscribe to my channel, kindly do so to stay updated on the latest crime we would uncover next. Danielle Ripien was born on January 11, 1995, in San Francisco, California, into a world that seemed already determined to test her strength. From the moment she was born, her life would be shaped by struggle. She arrived prematurely, just 7 weeks early, weighing a fragile 3 pounds, barely half of what a typical newborn should weigh. The doctors, grim with concern, weren't sure she would survive. Yet, even at that tender age, Danielle displayed an incredible will to live, defying the odds stacked against her. Though she spent the first few months of her life in a hospital incubator, clinging to life, her fighting spirit never wavered. Her early years were marked by her strength, but they were also shadowed by an overwhelming sense of loss. At only 2 years old, just as Danielle was beginning to form her first memories, her mother, Elizabeth, succumbed to a battle with cancer. The loss was devastating. Elizabeth had been the center of Danielle's world, and without her, the world felt dimmer, quieter, and colder. At such a tender age, Danielle had no way of understanding the permanence of death, but the absence of her mother became a void she would struggle to fill for the rest of her life. With her mother gone, Danielle was taken in by her grandmother, Scarlett Ripien. Scarlett became the anchor in Danielle's tumultuous world, offering her the love and care she so desperately needed. But even as Scarlett filled the role of mother and protector, the shadow of Danielle's early life remained. Scarlett's love was a constant, a reminder of the care that could exist even in a world that had been so harsh. However, just as Danielle began to feel the steadiness that came from having a mother figure in Scarlett, tragedy struck again. When Danielle was only 14, her grandmother passed away from old age, leaving Danielle once more adrift. This second loss, though not as unexpected as the first, left Danielle in a broken place. Her world was torn apart a second time, and once again, she was faced with the cruel reality of death's cold grip. Yet, instead of sinking into despair, Danielle grew stronger. The grief she felt, though intense and consuming, fueled a fierce determination within her. If the world had taught her one thing, it was that she could survive. Through all the hardship, the death, and the heartbreak, Danielle learned how to keep going, to push through the pain. She had no choice but to continue, to fight for stability, even when it seemed elusive. She refused to let the tragedies define her, though they were etched deeply into the story of who she was. The death of her mother and grandmother shaped Danielle in ways no one could understand. She became a person who longed for belonging, for a family that could give her the love and support that had been taken from her too soon. But what Danielle didn't yet know was that even though she had learned to fight, the hardest battles were yet to come. Danielle's life had always been one of change and uncertainty, a constant state of flux that left her feeling like a leaf adrift in a storm. Raised by her grandmother after losing her mother, then losing her grandmother at a young age, Danielle had never had the chance to feel truly rooted. The world seemed to take more than it gave, and she longed for stability, for a foundation she could stand on without fear of it crumbling beneath her. It wasn't until she met Skyler Nemitz, a 19-year-old Army recruit, during her senior year of high school, that everything began to shift. For the first time in her life, something felt real. Something felt permanent. Skyler was fresh out of high school, full of ambition and excitement for the future. His charm was undeniable, and it wasn't long before Danielle found herself captivated by him. There was an immediate connection between them, an undeniable chemistry that neither of them could resist. For Danielle, it was as if fate had finally given her a gift after years of hardship. She could see her future with Skyler, and for once, the uncertainty that had defined her life seemed to melt away. Their relationship blossomed quickly. What began as a few casual dates turned into a whirlwind romance, as if time had no meaning when they were together. Skyler's bright smile, his sense of adventure, and his unwavering confidence made Danielle feel like she was finally part of something solid, something she could hold on to. By the summer of 2012, just a few months into their relationship, Danielle had moved in with Skyler and his family. It was a bold step, but it felt right. With him, she found a sense of belonging that she had longed for all her life. In December 2012, just months after they met, Skyler took Danielle on a hike to the top of a mountain. It was a chilly evening, but the view from the summit was breathtaking. As they stood there, looking out at the vast, endless landscape, Skyler pulled out a ring and proposed. The moment was perfect, a symbol of the future they were about to build together. Danielle, overcome with emotion, said yes without hesitation, tears streaming down her face. The promise of a life together, the hope for a future where she would never have to face loneliness again, filled her heart to the brim. By March 7, 2013, only a few months after Skyler completed his basic training and was stationed at Fort Lewis in Washington, Danielle and Skyler were married. Their ceremony was small but meaningful, just the two of them, exchanging vows they both believed in with every fiber of their being. For Danielle, it was everything she had dreamed of. A family, stability, a sense of being home. She had found her person, her anchor in a world that had always felt unsteady. The newlyweds settled into life in Lakewood, Washington. Danielle found a job at a local countertop store, and the couple shared their home with 2 dogs, adding another layer of comfort and warmth to their lives. It was a simple life, but for Danielle it was perfect. She finally had a family of her own, something she had always yearned for. There was a sense of peace that she hadn't known in years, a sense of being loved and cared for in a way that was truly genuine. But as perfect as everything seemed, there was something lurking beneath the surface, something that neither Skyler nor Danielle could foresee. The future, while bright and full of promise, would prove to be far more complicated than either of them imagined. Despite the picture-perfect life they had begun to build, it was only a matter of time before the cracks begin to show. Danielle's hope for a new beginning, for the love and stability she had always craved, would soon collide with the harsh realities of the relationship she had entered. The journey they were on together would become a painful reminder that appearances, no matter how flawless, can be deceiving. The date was October 16, 2014, a day that should have been filled with joy and anticipation. Skyler had been away for 3 long weeks, participating in field training in Yakima, Washington. Danielle had stayed behind, managing the household and caring for their 2 dogs. Despite the physical distance between them, Danielle's heart and mind were tethered to her husband. The days without him felt long and empty, but she clung to the thought of his return. She counted down the hours until they would finally be reunited, hoping that their reunion would bring a new sense of peace to their life. That morning, Danielle spent hours FaceTiming with her best friend, Michaela Yingling. Michaela could hear the excitement in Danielle's voice as she spoke of Skyler's return. It had been difficult, being apart for so long, and Danielle was eager to make their reunion special. The 2 women chatted about everything, from Danielle's plans for the evening to the excitement of Skyler coming home. Danielle was beaming with happiness, the love for her husband radiating through every word. As the day went on, Danielle continued to prepare for Skyler's return. She carefully arranged candles throughout the house, creating a warm, inviting atmosphere that reflected her anticipation. She wanted everything to be perfect. Danielle had planned a quiet evening for the 2 of them, a celebration of Skyler's return. The house smelled of freshly bathed dogs, and there was a sense of calm and excitement in the air. It was as if everything in her life was falling into place. Then, Skyler sent a text that added another layer of anticipation to the day. He asked Danielle to pick up a bottle of rum and whiskey in preparation for his return. Skyler wasn't allowed to drink on base during his training, and as soon as he texted, Danielle happily agreed. She had already been preparing for his arrival, but now there was something extra, something tangible to look forward to. As she grabbed her keys and prepared to leave, she felt a deep sense of joy knowing that in just a few short hours, she would see her husband again. By the time she returned from picking up the alcohol, the house was ready. Skyler texted her once more, letting her know that he would be home by 4 p.m. The clock seemed to tick louder with each passing minute. Danielle, her heart racing with excitement, sat down to chat with Michaela again, eager to share every little detail. It was supposed to be the beginning of a new chapter for them, a fresh start after weeks apart. That would be the last time anyone would hear from Danielle. The minutes passed, and the air thickened with the weight of what was about to unfold. What should have been a joyous reunion between Danielle and Skyler was destined to turn into something far darker, something that would change the lives of everyone involved forever. What happened next was a tragic, unfathomable twist of fate, a moment of violence that no one saw coming. The peaceful excitement of that afternoon would soon be shattered in a way that no one could have predicted. The man Danielle had trusted with her heart, the one she had hoped would be her forever, would forever alter the course of her life and end it far too soon. That afternoon, Danielle's world ended in the most tragic and senseless of ways. Less than 15 minutes after their last conversation, the calm and excitement of the afternoon shattered into chaos. Skyler's frantic voice echoed through the phone when he called 911, his words barely coherent as he begged the neighbors for help. His voice trembled with a combination of fear and desperation, a sharp contrast to the calm that had just moments ago filled the house. The neighbors, startled by the sudden outburst and still reeling from the strange sounds they had just heard, a loud, jarring bang followed by confusion, immediately dialed emergency services, their concern growing with each passing second. Skyler's panic was palpable as he continued to shout down the phone, his words a disjointed plea. "Please, you have to help. It's Danielle. She's gone. She's dead." The neighbors, unsure of what exactly had transpired but recognizing the urgency of the situation, rushed to comply. Their hearts pounded as they waited for help to arrive, unable to comprehend the magnitude of what had just occurred behind the closed doors of the Nemitz home. When police arrived, they found a scene that sent a chill down their spines. In the living room, Danielle's lifeless body was slumped over a table, a computer screen still glowing in front of her, untouched and unbothered by the tragedy unfolding in the same room. The setting seemed eerily out of place, too calm for something so violent to have just taken place. It was almost as if time had frozen for a brief moment. Nearby, the weapon that had killed her, a blue automatic rifle, given to her by Skyler for her 19th birthday, an affectionate gift meant to celebrate her coming of age, lay discarded on the floor, a silent witness to the horror that had unfolded. The circumstances surrounding Danielle's death were puzzling, and everything about the scene felt wrong. Skyler's version of events, when he explained what had happened, did not align with the evidence that the officers were now confronting. He claimed that Danielle had been cleaning the rifle when, in his words, it went off. According to Skyler, the gun had been disassembled with the magazine removed, yet a single bullet remained in the chamber. He insisted that when he pulled the trigger, the bullet had struck Danielle. It was an accident, he said, a tragic mistake. But the evidence told a different story. Forensic investigators and detectives quickly noted discrepancies that didn't match Skyler's account. The gun had been pointed directly at Danielle, and the shot that killed her had been fired from close range. There was no evidence of the rifle being disassembled as Skyler had claimed. The trajectory of the bullet didn't match what would have happened had the gun been aimed in the way Skyler described. Every detail seemed off, from the angle at which the shot had been fired to the position of Danielle's body. The more investigators dug into Skyler's explanation, the more holes they found. His story didn't add up, and the evidence at the scene spoke louder than his words ever could. Detectives began to grow increasingly suspicious. Was it really an accident? Or had something more sinister taken place? Something Skyler was desperate to conceal? Every minute that passed brought more questions than answers. Skyler's attempts to explain the tragedy only raised more doubts. As police examined the scene, it became evident that what had happened in that house was not the simple, tragic accident Skyler was trying to portray. The unraveling of the truth was just beginning. Detectives quickly became suspicious. Skyler's account of what had happened changed multiple times during questioning. The details kept shifting. First, the magazine was off, then it wasn't. First, the shot was accidental, then it was as if Skyler was unsure of what had occurred. Each new version of events seemed more implausible than the last. One of the key pieces of evidence was the gunshot wound. The bullet had entered the back of Danielle's head, indicating that the gun had been held close to her head, far too close for it to have been an accidental discharge from across the room. The forensic evidence indicated that the gun had been aimed directly at her from a very short distance. Skyler's story fell apart completely when the ballistics report revealed that the angle of the shot did not align with his account of how the shooting occurred. The trajectory of the bullet suggested that the rifle had been aimed at shoulder height, not waist height as Skyler had initially claimed. The inconsistency was damning. Even more unsettling was Skyler's behavior. While being questioned at the police station, he oscillated between bouts of apparent sorrow and unnatural calmness. Sometimes he would cry, yet no tears would fall. Other times, he would be completely composed, almost detached from the gravity of the situation. His erratic emotions only deepened the detective's suspicions. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Skyler and Danielle's marriage had not been the fairy tale it appeared to be. Danielle's friends came forward with disturbing accounts of Skyler's behavior. Michaela, Danielle's best friend, revealed that Skyler had always made her feel uneasy. He was controlling, constantly watching over Danielle, forbidding her from spending time with her friends, and limiting her access to money. Danielle's father figure, James Peltier, also spoke to the police. He told them about an incident in which Skyler had physically assaulted Danielle during a fight, even breaking her phone. James revealed that Danielle had confided in him about the abuse, telling him that Skyler was violent, particularly when drunk. Skyler's jealousy seemed to have consumed him. He had suspected Danielle of cheating with her boss, Michael Newton, despite no evidence to support this. This insecurity only grew worse with time, and Skyler became increasingly possessive. In January 2016, Skyler's trial began. The prosecution presented a strong case, using the ballistics report, the inconsistencies in Skyler's testimony, and the emotional manipulation and abuse he had subjected Danielle to as evidence. The defense argued that it had been a tragic accident, pointing to Skyler's youth and lack of experience as mitigating factors. Skyler's mother, Danette, stood by him throughout the trial. Despite the overwhelming evidence, she maintained her belief in his innocence, even going so far as to sell her house and jewelry to pay for his defense. This unwavering support was heartbreaking to Danielle's family, who had lost their beloved daughter. In March 2016, Skyler was convicted of first-degree manslaughter. The jury concluded that while Skyler had not intentionally set out to kill Danielle, his reckless actions had led to her death. He was sentenced to 13.5 years in prison. Danielle's family was devastated by the verdict. They felt that justice had not been fully served. Though Skyler would spend time behind bars, the weight of Danielle's loss would never lift. As Skyler serves his sentence, the pain of Danielle's death continues to haunt those who loved her. Her life, cut tragically short, is remembered by those who knew her as a vibrant, caring person who deserved far more than the life she got. Danielle's story is a stark reminder of the dangers of manipulation, control, and violence in relationships. It is also a testament to the power of resilience, as Danielle fought for happiness even in the face of overwhelming adversity. In the end, the greatest tragedy of all is that Danielle's life was stolen by someone she trusted, someone who should have been her partner, but who became her captor. If you found this case as chilling and mysterious as we did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more true crime stories. Don't miss out on future cases, updates, and deep dives into true crimes.